So my understanding is that Mike is not here tonight, so,
And Kevin.
and Kevin. All right, so with that, I will make a motion to open tonight's meeting of the Marshfield Planning Board of December 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m. I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
Fred Monaco, I'll second it.
Okay. And roll call vote. Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Scott?
Scott DeCastro, aye.
And Katie O'Donnell, aye. All right, so we've got a few action items on here, and then it looks like the one public hearing that we have for this evening for Marshfield Hills Estate will be continued without testimony until January 13th, 2025.
Correct.
All right.
Okay, so do we need to open that and continue it, or?
Well, it's already open, so you could just vote to
Yeah.
continue without testimony.
Okay, we need to vote to continue.
Without testimony, yep.
All right. Do you think it's okay if I go ahead and do that first, and then we'll go into the action items?
Yep.
All right. So I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Marshfield Hills Estate until January 13th, 2025. Is there a second?
Second, Fred Monaco.
Okay. Roll call vote. Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Scott?
Scott DeCastro, aye.
And Katie O'Donnell, aye. Okay, with that, we can move into our action items. Looks like we have submittal of surety and release for 2 lots on Juniper Road.
Yes, that's on the Bull side of Juniper Road, and the applicant has submitted the $32,772 needed to complete the road. The base coat is already in, and the drainage is already in.
Okay. Any questions, concerns from anyone? Okay, with that, I'll make a motion to release the 2 lots on Juniper Road.
I'll second the motion, Fred Monaco.
Nick? Oh, sorry, roll call vote. Fred?
Okay. Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Scott?
Scott DeCastro, aye.
And Katie O'Donnell, aye. Next up, we have a Form E release for lot 26P on Progress Way.
This is one of the VRT properties, and it's next to the moving company. So it's a good sign that another one of the Progress Way lots are being developed.
Okay. And everything's all set to
Yep.
release that.
So we had held it back last meeting because he didn't have a Form E yet. He did get us the Form E, so we're ready to sign.
Okay. So with that, I'll make a motion to release lot 26P on Progress Way. Is there a second?
Second, Fred Monaco.
Roll call vote. Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Scott?
Scott DeCastro, aye.
And Katie O'Donnell, aye. Okay.
Fred, you'll need to come in to sign that, Fred, because remember, just Fred needs to sign things now. So if Fred can come in tomorrow.
I will. Thank you.
Lots of responsibility, Fred.
I know, it's tough. I don't know if I can handle this.
Do your hand exercises. All right. Next up, we've got board discussion and vote on the special town meeting articles.
And this is a reminder.
Can anybody
that
hear
the
me, by the way?
Oh,
Can anybody
sorry.
hear me?
Yes.
Mike, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to wish everybody a happy holiday season and thank you very much tonight. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I was going to say, Katie, just a reminder that the public hearing had been closed and this is the board's discussion. We've had some last minute things that have happened with the state stuff that I will briefly go through when we get into that articles or the ADU articles. We have articles 12 through 21 for the town meeting. Articles 12, 13, and 14 are the MBTA community articles. Articles 15, 16, and 17 are the ADU or accessory dwelling unit articles, in which that's where we have some discussion, or at least I have to tell you guys what's going on so you're aware. Article 18 is the WRPD special permit site plan review clarification article. There's no change there. And Articles 19, 20, and 21 are the BESS or the battery energy storage systems zoning articles.
Okay. Thanks. I was just making a a little checklist
Spreadsheet.
on those as well.
So Article 12 is the main text on the MBTA communities bylaw. So I didn't know if anybody had any questions or discussion amongst yourselves on that one.
I don't think I did. I don't know if any of the other board members do.
Yeah, I saw the correspondence there. I mean, just in terms of tying it back to that draft state language.
That's the ADUs.
Oh, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
jumping ahead.
I mean, do we want to talk about, sorry. Go ahead. Were you going to talk about the town council's letter?
I was just going to touch on the draft state language that Greg sent.
Which is the ADU stuff. So we're ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, for the MBTA communities, right? That's what we're discussing right now.
I'm good.
All right.
Good on that.
Do we want to take votes on each article? Or is that,
Or do you want to take them as groups, or how do you want to do it?
I'm wondering if maybe we take them as groups as we go through. So like if we're discussing, 12, 13, 14 for MBTA.
On this one, we haven't had any changes from the state, and the board had voted to put it on the article or the warrant on the article. And the board had supported it at the last town meeting.
like Greg, isn't this, we need the 2 votes though? We need the favorable as well as supporting it, right?
Yes, yep. So because it's coming back before 2 years, typically if something gets shot down at town meeting, it has to wait 2 years unless the planning board votes favorably to have it go forward again. So I guess that would be your first vote, and that would be for Articles 12, 13, and 14, a favorable vote to continue or to put it to town meeting.
Well, we
Okay.
already put it on the warrant. So is this really just a favorable vote to support it?
So you could do it as a favorable recommendation, and that way you address both questions.
Okay. So let's see here. I think just in terms of discussion, I know that, we closed the public hearing, but now like the board can discuss as well. And we did have the statement of town council that, Bob Galvin had done in response to social media postings. And I know that it was shared with the board and posted on the town website. And I do recommend that anyone with any questions read through. It gives a lot of the history of this, and just especially looking at, I don't know how the other board members feel, but at least for me, I would not have come up with all of this on my own or have encouraged the Marshfield Planning Board to do so. But I think that in response to, these decisions that the state has made and, sort of the hand that the towns have been dealt, I do feel that, that the board should vote favorably for this. I think it's the best, or in that the town should. I would encourage people to look into, all of the language of it. I know that there is a lot of conflicting information that is going around, but I think that, at least for me, I think anybody who's watched me in planning board meetings over the years would know that I am not a very pro-development person, and I am certainly very much in favor of water protection and water concerns. And I feel like that's being conflated with this in various ways. But I think that our planning staff and town employees have done a really good job of locating this in an area that makes it reasonable, that allows for smarter redevelopment of already developed areas rather than brand new development in untouched areas that some other towns are looking at. Marshfield is, I think we have a unique opportunity, and it's different than what some other towns are looking at. And I think that I've seen a lot of things about people are urging to vote no, and everybody can always vote the way that they want. But I don't think that the option is between voting no and having no development at all. I think that I'm very concerned about what the state's next moves could be. And I see this as an opportunity for Marshfield to guide the development that's happening versus not having a choice over the development that happens in our town. That's my feeling on it. I don't know if any of the other board members have anything that they want to say or contribute. Right. That'll make a motion to put for that the planning board put forward a favorable recommendation for Articles 12, 13, and 14.
I'll
Marshall.
second the motion.
All
Fred
right.
Monaco.
Okay, roll call vote. Fred,
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Scott,
Scott DeCastro, aye.
and Katie O'Donnell, aye. All right. Now it's ADU, right?
So the next three are 15, 16, and 17 on the ADUs. We have just the other day, over the weekend, gotten the state proposed draft regulations on ADUs. And based on some of the language in that, I am suggesting a couple of changes in Article 15. Article 15 is basically the text of the ADU bylaw that we prepared. Under number 7, under the review standard number 7, I would recommend that we add the words height and after the minimum, meet the minimum. So what we're doing is it talks about the yard setbacks and stuff, and we're adding the height in there. And the reason that we're doing that is because from the draft state ADU language, we would have difficulty because our accessory buildings or structures can only be 20 feet high. And in our original language, which is another one of the review standards that I'll get to in a minute, we had language that said that the ADU can only be 20 feet high because we were assuming it was an accessory use in an accessory structure. The state language seems to basically say it can be as high as the single family house. So we would add those two words in number 7. And then I would recommend that we strike numbers 12 and 13, which address several different things. 1, it addresses the height, and 2, it addresses, there was some concerns at the public hearing about existing buildings having to be moved. We have language elsewhere that said an existing garage or existing barn and stuff didn't have to worry about that. But and we were originally thinking that the language was more on, say you had a 400 or a 600 square foot shed or something, and then you were going to add on to that shed. And if it was something that could be moved off a property line or to meet a setback, we should try to do that. But in the state draft language for the ADU, it kind of gives an amnesty clause for pre-existing accessory dwelling units. And therefore, that's why I'm suggesting that we strike review standards 12 and 13 from what we bring to town meeting. Now, I usually don't like doing floor amendments. We're only adding 2 words to the text, and we're taking out 2 requirements. So we are less restrictive. And in the past, I've always been told, town council has said, you can be less restrictive, but you cannot be more restrictive. So I think that would meet a modification, and I think that will help with some of the concerns that were expressed at the public hearing. And then Article 16, we don't propose any change because that's just the definition, which is the state definition. The state has draft additional definitions, but we don't have to worry about those at this time. And then the last thing on is the Article 17, which was also mentioned at the public hearing. Article 17 basically says residential R1, R2, and R3. And that's because the state law specifically says single-family residential districts. So I focused it on the single-family residential districts. However, in the state ADU draft regulations, their definition of single-family residential district includes any district where you can get a single-family house by right, by special permit, or by variance, which basically means that you, my understanding under the, don't have my bylaw with me because I'm out west at the moment. But that basically to me means that any district in our town. So instead of trying to redo that table of use line that would say P throughout, I think it's easier at this moment to just strike it, because once these regulations are passed and once we have an idea of how the ADU bylaw is proceeding, we're going to be modifying this again anyway at, if not the next town meeting, the next fall town meeting. So my recommendation is that we do not move Article 17 forward. So those are the 3 ADU changes, or the 3 ADU bylaws that we have at town meeting. Did I miss anything, Karen?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
All right, any discussion from the board? Yeah. All right, that I make a motion to move, that the board vote to recommend and move forward Articles 15 and 16 for a special town meeting. Well, with the proposed changes, sorry.
Fred Monaco,
Article
I'll second the
15.
motion.
Okay, roll call vote, Fred,
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Scott,
Scott DeCastro, aye.
and Katie O'Donnell, aye. Do we need to vote to
Not move forward
Article
number,
17 or just not?
not to move 17 forward. Yes, you should do that.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that the planning board not move forward Article 17 at special town meeting.
I'll second the motion, Fred Monaco.
Okay, roll call vote, Fred,
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Scott,
Scott DeCastro, aye.
all right, and Katie O'Donnell, aye. Sorry, my dog is chewing something and distracting me, but we can go to it at the next thing while I pull that out of his mouth.
So Article 18 is just to clarify that the planning board would combine site plan review when a project in the WRPD district needs a WRPD special permit from the planning board. Back when we originally drafted this, probably 6 or 8 years ago, what we were trying to do is one-stop shopping, because right now site plan approval is through the zoning board of appeals. And instead of making a applicant go to 2 boards for one project when there's a special permit involved, we decided to roll it into one. So this is just language to help clarify that.
All right. We've talked about this one. Any discussion from the board? Okay, I'll make a motion that the planning board move forward with Article 18 for a special town meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion. Fred Monaco.
Roll call vote. Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Scott?
Scott DeCastro, aye.
And Katie O'Donnell, aye. All right, and next we're moving into the energy storage
BESS.
system. BESS, I've got written down here.
Yep.
So,
So that's the battery energy storage system. The reason that the planning staff had moved this article in is because we saw one of these facilities being a draft to propose it in the WRPD, or the Water Resource Protection District, for the Furnace Brook wells. And it would be adjacent to an elementary school. And we had some concerns with, there have been documented reports about these storage systems catching on fire. And when they're on fire and the fire is put out, what is getting into the groundwater potentially led us to propose these 3 articles, which basically direct these type of storage systems away from our WRPD or Zone 2. It doesn't prohibit them all through the town and stuff. It just says not in the WRPD. It also directs it not in R3 and RB because of the small lots. There is a Scribner's error, but we are not going to change it at this town meeting. The Brant Rock Village overlay should also probably qualify. And in addition, just like the R3 and the RB, those areas are, we do have some floodplain issues in there. I don't think you want a bunch of battery storage systems in an area that's flooding, but we will get that addressed at the April town meeting.
all right, are there any questions, discussion from the board? All right, with that, I'll make a motion that the planning board move forward Articles 19, 20, and 21 for a special town meeting.
I'll second the motion. Fred Monaco.
Okay, roll call vote. Fred?
Fred, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Scott?
Scott DeCastro, aye.
And Katie O'Donnell, aye. So with that, that covers all the special town meeting articles, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay, do you have any board and staff reports?
Well, I'm on vacation and Karen has been sick, so
Oh,
there's
no.
not much to report this week.
Just getting ready for Monday.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of this late in the year, so I don't know about anybody else, but I
We
understand.
We requested a room if we need to meet beforehand, but we haven't posted a meeting yet, so we'll have to wait and see if something comes up by Wednesday.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good. All right, anybody else have anything? Anything else?
Our meeting in January is, what is it, Greg? Is it the 13th? Is that the next meeting after this?
I believe so.
Yep.
I don't have the
Yeah.
calendar.
That's the one that we continued.
Yes, so that's the next meeting after this. I never heard back from anyone on any problems with dates other than Kevin.
No issue here.
Okay. All right, well, then those are our tentative dates that I sent out a couple of weeks ago. And if-
All right. I generally block all Mondays, so be flexible on those. All right, with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'll second the motion. Fred Monaco.
Roll call vote. Fred,
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Scott,
Scott DeCastro, aye.
Katie O'Donnell, aye. All right. Have a good night, everyone, and I'll see you.
Good night, everybody.
next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Nick-